operations, illness, and so on and so on. When you talk about being hurt, are you talking about psychological hurts?
Yeah, I'm wondering how it is that when a person comes into my office.
This is one of a series of dialogues between J. Krishnamurti, David Bohm, Rupert Sheldrake, and John Hidley. The purpose of these discussions is to explore essential questions about the mind. What is psychological disorder, and what is required for fundamental psychological change? J. Krishnamurti is a religious philosopher, author, and educator who has written and given lectures on these subjects for many years. He has founded elementary and secondary schools in the United States, England, and India. David Bohm is professor of theoretical physics at Birkbeck College, London University in England. He has written numerous books concerning theoretical physics and the nature of consciousness. Professor Bohm and Mr. Krishnamurti have held previous dialogues on many subjects. Rupert Sheldrake is a biologist whose recently published book proposes that learning in some members of a species affects the species as a whole. Dr. Sheldrake is presently consulting plant physiologist to the International Crops Research Institute in Hyderabad, India. John Hidley is a psychiatrist in private practice who has been associated with the Krishnamurti School in Ojai, California for the past 6 years. In the first dialogue, the nature of the self was discussed, its relationship to suffering, to society, and to religion. Questions raised were, can one discover or learn about these relationships? And is the need for psychological security the root of the problem? Today's discussion continues with these questions.
We talked yesterday, we started with the question of the origin and nature of psychological disorder. And it was suggested that it has its roots in self-centered activity, which is divisive and conflictual in nature, and that biologically such factors as instinctual aggression and dominance drives, the facts of illness and death, all contribute. I wondered if we could start this morning, David, by having you comment on the relationship between these biological factors and psychological security.
Yes, well, biologically, if you begin with the animal, you have all sorts of things like fear and anger and aggression, and they're fairly simple. They exist for a short period while the effect is there, and then they generally disappear, leaving little trace. There may be a few cases in the higher animals where there's some memory, but it's in man that the memory becomes very significant. Remembering all these experiences and anticipating the future, you get a very different sort of behavior. For example, with an animal, you might have a bad experience with another animal, and shortly afterward he'll be in a fairly good state of equilibrium. But say we have a quarrel between two groups, as in Northern and Southern Ireland. This has been gone on for 350 years, and there's a specific effort to remember it, which you can see going on. I think this is the biggest difference now.
Memory being the biggest difference.
The effect of memory, the consequences of memory. See, memory by itself would obviously not cause any trouble because it's only a fact, right? But
yes.
Memory has consequences. It may produce fear. You see, it may produce anger. It may produce all sorts of disturbances to remember what did happen and to anticipate what may happen.
You mean thinking about it?
Yes. Based on memory.
I mean, obviously, the animal that's been attacked by another animal remembers in the sense that when it sees the other animal again, it's afraid.
Yeah.
But probably doesn't think about it in between.
Yes, it can't form an image. You see, I don't believe that most animals can form images of the other animals, and I can base that on experience. That I have seen dogs fighting very hard, and as soon as you turn the corner, the dog sort of forgets what happened. He's disturbed, but he doesn't know why he's disturbed, you see. Now, if he could remember it, the other dog, after he turned the corner, he could continue the struggle over territory indefinitely. So the point about territory is the animal maintains it in a certain limited context, But man remembers it, and he maintains this territory indefinitely and wants to extend it, and so on, because of his thinking about it.
So, sorry.
No, please.
So are you suggesting that the basis of the specifically human kind of pain and suffering, over and above the kind of suffering we see in the animal kingdom, is this ability to remember, to brood over, to think about these
Yes, the animal may have some of that. I've seen examples on television of a deer who lost its doe and it was pining away in the wild, but I think it's limited. That is, there's some suffering of that kind in the animal world, but with man it's enormously expanded. You know, it seems limitless. Yes, I think the major point is that with man, the thing can build up like a tremendous explosion. It fills his whole mind, you see, and it can become the major motive in life, you see, to remember the insult and to, to revenge the vendetta of families over many generations. And to remember the bad experience you've had with somebody and to be frightened of what's coming back at the examination the child may be frightened of, or something like that.
But have you answered his question, sir?
Which is?
Which was?
How does the biological fact of illness or death or instinctual drive result in a psychological problem or disorder?
Oh, by thinking about it, I say that the biological fact is not a serious problem in the long run, but as soon as you begin to think about it, and not merely think about it, but make images about it along with that thought, and to revive the memory and anticipate the feeling of the future. And while you are thinking, then it becomes a very serious problem because you can't stop it, you see. You will never attain security by thinking about it. But you're constantly seeking security by... See, the purpose of thinking is to give you security in practical affairs,
yes.
Technical affairs. Now, therefore, you're doing a similar sort of thinking, saying, how can I be secure against the possibility of suffering again? And now that, there's no way to do that. You may take technical steps to make it unlikely, but as you think about it, you begin to stir up the whole system and distort the whole mental process.
Well, it seems clear that by thinking about it, we stir up the emotions and the associations that are those thoughts. But we're not suggesting we shouldn't think about it, are we?
Well, it depends on how you think about it. You see that this thinking gets to be directed toward giving you a sense of security, you see, an image of security.
Right. I get hurt
Yeah.
when I'm little or sometime along the line, and it creates a fear in me, and I anticipate that kind of situation. I may not even remember the incident,
Yeah.
but I want to avoid it in the future.
Yes, and now the point is that the mind is always searching for how to avoid it, and searching out thoughts, images. Saying that fellow is the one who did it, I must keep away from him. Coming to conclusions, and if any conclusion gives you an image of security, then the mind holds on to it, right? Without actually any basis.
Could you elaborate on that a little?
Well, if you've had, if you've had a bad experience with somebody, you may conclude that you should never trust him again, for example. Well, that might be quite wrong. But the mind is so anxious to have security that it will jump to the conclusion that